Hi, everyone. Welcome to Analyze Your Trade, episode number 72 for April 2nd, 2019. Today, we will be discussing your trade ideas. And over the last few days, about 20 people submitted up to 5 symbols each. And I've put the list together, which you should be seeing on your screen right now, of the top requests. And we're going to get through as many of those as we can today. We are broadcasting live on YouTube at our new official time for the show, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. But you can also listen to the audio-only podcast version of all episodes on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Just search for Timing Research and subscribe. My name is David Kosmeter. I'm the creator of TimingResearch.com, and I have Matt Buckley back here to moderate today, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Good afternoon or good morning, good evening, folks, wherever you're coming from on the face of this big blue marble. Welcome aboard another great Analyze Your Trade session. I have two 500-pound heads joining us today. Bryan Klindworth of AlphaShark.com. Now, he's a first-time guest, which means we get to haze him and make him do push-ups and get his drink. And then working again with Jerremy Newsome from RealLifeTrading.com. So, guys, we'll keep that order kind of all day as we talk through stuff, Bryan, and then Jerremy. But Bryan, why don't you give everybody kind of the executive summary about your background and what you currently do at AlphaShark.com?
Hi, everybody. My name is Bryan Klindworth from AlphaShark.com, live trading room. And my background is I have a degree in econ from UNC Chapel Hill. And I started studying trading in about 2012 and learned to write code, write custom indicators, started with CSS, HTML, and then moved those skills over into custom code for TradeStation and TOS. And I moderate the live trading room in the afternoon from 12:30 until 2. I develop our indicators, our proprietary trading ideas and strategies, as well as offer webinars on a bi-monthly basis.
Awesome, man. Welcome aboard. Looking forward to talking to you and picking your brain on all of these symbols. Now let's go to Jerremy. Good to be working with you again. Why don't you give everybody your executive summary?
Likewise, sir. Back at you. Easy summary for me. I love teaching people. I do it with all ages. So March at my company was Kids Month. So I went to a bunch of middle schools, high schools, kindergarten classrooms, and taught kids about the stock market. I learned at the age of 7 that this is what I want to do, and I've been trying to figure out a way to do it ever since. So I've been doing trading full-time now for 10 years, and I love it.
Awesome. Great. Looking forward to working with you again and hearing everything that's going on. And Jerremy, as long as you're, 1% better than Andrew Keene, you're going to be doing awesome today, man. Andrew's a great American.
Yes.
And I was on him. I think it was, last week he and I were on here. We had a great, great session. So, all right, man, why don't you get us airborne with NVIDIA? What's kind of your short-term mindset here? What's the chart showing you? Looks like earnings are maybe, that confirmed to be May 15th. How about from now until May 15th? What do you think of NVIDIA?
You going to me to start this one off?
You bet.
All right. So NVIDIA chips. First thing we want to always start with is what sector are we dealing with? In our trading room, we do a lot of unusual option activity, and we are starting to see some puts come out for some chip names. So that makes me a little bit cautious that we're going to see some puts maybe start to land on NVIDIA. But out of the chips, that being said, NVIDIA's pretty attractive chart here. What we have to deal with, though, the way that I have this set up, we have our 350 EMA and our 200 EMA here. And we have a lot of symbols on this list today that are creeping right on those long-term averages, like quite a bit. And you see this throughout the market right now because we've been largely sideways for over a year. We're at the same level as we were in January. So it's not a big surprise to see us hanging out near these long-term moving averages. So on NVIDIA, before I would really make a position here, I would want to see how we're going to behave a little bit closer to this 200 and 350 moving average convergence. So it's a good looking chart, but there's really not enough room here to the upside before we might run into this resistance. And so the way that I would treat this is I would watch for option flow on this and other chips and just see what we do in this area, how close we get. And then I think we can kind of about 187.25 out to about 189.90, 190 even actually. That's when our decision point on it is. There's just not enough room on the upside right now to go with this. So I would wait till those levels and then make a decision there.
Bryan, where were you seeing most of the put buying? Was it in front of earnings? Is it out to Friday? Where's that flow, do you think?
They came after Micron today.
Ah, okay.
So we had some big sweeps on Micron.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever I see them go after any chip, I immediately think, you know, let's watch. The flow on AMD has been real mixed lately, but that's AMD, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I see flow on one chip name, that makes me immediately think, well, what about the other chips?
Well, I mean, they've had a monster run of late too. So
Yeah.
this might be a little bit of, hey, let's take some of this off the table and
Right.
at least protect it, you know?
Yeah, the volume doesn't indicate that there's really a ton of profit taking yet either.
Mm-hmm.
What I would love to see from NVIDIA is a clear day of exhaustion volume.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would be, especially if we get it right near these long-term moving averages, give me a big day of volume. We know the trend's exhausted. And then we can maybe short it for the move to the downside off that resistance. That would be spectacular to see.
Yeah. Okay, Jerremy, what's your take on NVIDIA?
So this is why the markets are amazing, right? Because you're going to have two sides on every coin. Sometimes there's even a third side to every coin. I will do my best to see if I can effectively share my screen for those who are watching and want to check out a chart. Let me just make sure I can do that. I have to click share. Got it. Perfect. Okay. So here's my NVIDIA chart, and I'll make a wager with either one of you gentlemen. NVIDIA will hit 200 before earnings. Any dip that it has will be buyable, in my personal opinion. I'm very bullish on NVIDIA with a 200-250 debit spread for June that did not cost that much about 2.5 weeks ago. And it still doesn't really cost that much. Gives you a lot of room to the upside. My overall opinion on this one, and here's my big takeaway. NVIDIA, if we look at just pure patterns, has not hit the 100 simple on a weekly chart. So the 100 simple on a weekly chart is about 201.58. The reason I'm bringing that up, and the reason that's even remotely relevant, is because Micron has gotten above its 100 simple moving average on a weekly chart after coming down to the 200. Apple has also done it. AMD has also done it. SPY has also done it. The Qs have also done it. Facebook's also done it. So you have all these massive names which have already achieved that mark, and NVIDIA hasn't. Being a dividend blue chip stock that is sold off around 50% at the end of the quarter of 2018, in my opinion, you have tons of buyable volume coming in here on a weekly chart. You've broken out of a triangle pattern. You're above all the moving averages on a daily. Any dip, if we do get a big sell-off, I will 100% be buying as hard as I can, and I do think it hits 200 before earnings.
I like it, man. Very solid analysis there. I'm not an NVIDIA guy, to be honest with you. I stay out of the chips, a little for the reason that they are kind of a pack, right? I mean, I guess a lot of things move in a pack, the financials, the transports, and stuff like that. But it really seems to be a crowded field with a lot of horses running. So it's hard to pick a winner in there. So I usually sit on my hands when it comes to chips, but I'm definitely in the next one. So let's head over to you, Bryan. What do you think about Big Apple? Shiny to bite or rotten?
Apple. All right. So we're just going to use the same analysis here. Just to let everyone know, since I'm a newer trader, I'm a cash account trader. I'm a directional options trader, which keeps things pretty simple, right? Calls and puts. And so I have to approach my strategy from that point of view in my analysis, that I have to pick a direction. I don't have the luxury of grabbing some of those debit spreads, for example. Apple take a look at the pattern here we have on NVIDIA compared to Apple, right? Pretty similar on your daily here, at least more recently. You've got this top here, and Apple gave us a similar top. So with that being said, Apple is above its longer term moving averages, and we are getting the 50. I believe I put the 50 up here. Yep, I did. We're getting the 50 to get pulled back above these longer term averages. So going with just the EMAs here, Apple looks like a potential breakout play on this level. I like this setup a little bit better than NVIDIA, just because of the relationship between the price action right now and those longer term moving averages. I try to keep it real simple. Apple just gave me a new trend here to the upside. This is, I think your setup, especially with this 5-minute chart, really nice, smooth price action. Play for a breakout above this top. I think it'll happen. So absolutely, I think Apple is a buy.
Okay. Not going to dispute any of that. I'm going to hammer Apple here in a second. But Jeremy, what do you think?
Oh, I'm excited to hear your hammer. Here's the thing, man. So we had the Sell the News event on Apple, and it didn't really sell off. And here's my reason as to why. It was a flipping amazing event. Straight up crushed it. Apple Arcade is going to be, they're going to make $30 million a day off of this, off of that subscription. I mean, it's going to be an incredible generator. Apple Card, I can't wait to get mine. They're getting their foothold into that space. That's wonderful. I do agree with our other guests that we have a beautiful move on Apple. It is a nice breakout. Yesterday, you had 4 pennies away from a shaved top candle. And we've already broken above that. You're above the 200 moving average. You're above the exponential moving averages. There's no real resistance in the way. So my thought on Apple is you can pretty much be as bullish as you want on this one for a while. It's obviously a stock that's better to own than trade, in my opinion. But as far as being directional, I agree. I think bullish is the way to be. And you only got, what was it, like a 2% at most pullback on Apple after the event. I mean, it really wasn't that dramatic. And since then, we've just been slowly grinding higher. So it looks good to me.
Don't disagree with any of that stuff. It looks like it was a pretty cool event.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, yeah. Well, I mean, any event where you got Oprah at, and kind of all these big stars. I mean, how can you?
They brought it. They brought it.
They did. They brought it. So it was a little bit of a sell on the news. I mean, once the champagne gets a little stale and the confetti finally falls to the floor, it's kind of an and then what moment. So I get a lot of Apple's a booger eater stock to me. It's definitely it's a little bit cultish. And well, let's just take a look at some of the news recently here. Let me bring this up real quick. Where's my Apple headline here? Apple slides as Chinese iPhone prices are slashed. I don't care what Apple talks about. Nobody cares. What was it, a year and a half ago? A year and a half ago, it was like the Apple Watch. I think I've seen 2 dudes wearing one of those things, and it's gone from being a cool status symbol down to a booger eater thing. The iPad. At the end of the day, folks, it all boils down to airflow over the wings. This is their bread and butter. I mean, the $30 million, whatever it was a day. I mean, I think Tim Cook, that's what his salary is. So at the end of the day, I really think it's iPhone prices. And to be honest with you, that the content's cool type of thing, but anybody with an iPhone, or I'm an old guy that still uses a Galaxy, going to get the new S10. Anybody can make content. I really think the content space is getting absolutely crowded. You take a look at the Oscars, and Netflix is in there, and now we got the Amazon TV. Or I think we're getting saturated by content. I think one of the heavies in the content space the other day said our only competition is sleep, which is a little creepy. Yeah, they're trying to eat in. I mean, people are literally sitting in boardrooms trying to eat into your sleep and figure out how they can just turn you into some mindless staring at a device drone. But at the end of the day, folks, it's airflow over the wing. When Apple's got to slash iPhone prices in China, which they're not, you ain't paying what you pay for an iPhone here in the United States over in China. That's a little bit of a canary in the coal mine. I mean, if you look at the 1-year performance of Apple, we were up here in the stratosphere. What's that, 230-ish, and then got as low at kind of at that Fed bottom here at 140. Kind of big swing. We're kind of halfway. Climbing back up this mountain here. I'm not an Apple guy. I ditched all the FANGs, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, and Google, and I put it all into Amazon, and that's the place to be. So not a big Apple guy. I'm going to punt on that one. It's folks, it ain't going out of business anytime soon. I get that, but I kind of increase my alpha in other places.
I'm with you on that. Yeah, I'm with you on the Amazon thing. I think I can't really specifically argue on that.
Yeah, well, a year I call it the T-FANGs. It's TFAANG. It was Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google. And about a year and a half, when that Cambridge Analytica shit came out with Facebook and all the roaches in the kitchen, I'm like, it's just, and Twitter was shadow banning, and Google with search results, and here comes, couple $1 billion fine out of the EU. I'm just like, you know, who's been flying quietly under the radar is Jeff Bezos and Amazon. The dude just doesn't, you know, he ain't being dragged in front of Congress to testify about privacy and stealing stuff. So I dumped all those. I know there can be good returns and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, Amazon's the Death Star, and it's just eating everything. So anyway, let's switch tones literally and go from an Apple to a Lulu. I mean, what to talk about?
Just a soft switch. Switch.
Very, very, very soft switch from a $1,000 iPhone to older ladies in Boca Raton, Florida that haven't been to the gym in years wearing Lulu. So Bryan, talk to me about what's your thought on Lulu?
Lulu is special. Lulu is special. So the earnings report, this gap is just insane. And what makes me even grumpier is that about 3:50, I had my cursor over a call right ahead of it, and I was like, you know, it's been too good to be true, and we missed
to me, man.
All right, so Lulu. Well, Lulu is more of a fundamental discussion, I think, than really a technical one at this point. They have made a little bit of progress of eating away at this gap, but I don't really think they're going to get much more. But we have had largely sideways price action for the time being, given the cost of the underlying, and its ATR is okay. Lulu, though, I think is more of a fundamental discussion. I think that Lulu has found a market that is that a lot of people overlooked, and that is the consumers that are willing to pay a very high premium for quality. And the fact that Lulu has now expanded to include men's clothing, although what I've seen is not really attractive personally, that type of product is one that I would be interested in. And at the end of the day, you know, you have trading and you have charts and analysis, P ratios, whatnot, but you also have the real world. So they found a new market. I think they deserve where they are at this point, but I haven't seen anything on this island here. This is really key. Post earnings, we have an island here. Not enough new information yet after that earnings report to make a play on this.
Correct. Hey, you know what? Not that I've been slapped in the face a lot, but I call earnings a slap in the face, because after you kind of stand there for a couple, and you're like, what the hell just happened? So that's kind of like earnings is, whether it's a beat, a miss, there's a lot of people either one way or the other that are usually shocked. So after a slap in the face and earnings, and it kind of stands there for a little bit, and then should probably come to life a little bit. When it comes to life, Jerremy, what are you thinking with Lulu? Are you buying those hot shorts?
See, man, I need to get some Lulu shorts. I need to get the legs for it.
Exactly.
That's the problem. That's the biggest issue. So I'll do my best to give you a quick breakdown, just technically, of Lulu. I loved that analysis, by the way, man. I think it's spot on. So this is a monthly chart, and what we have is, and as big as this was a distribution phase of some kind. So we had the initial IPO run up, and then you had 2008. Now, the thing that is not talked about very often is Lulu survived 2008. How? I have no idea, but that's a success story. And we're talking $2, $3 a share in 2008, 2009 at the bottom. It rallies all the way up to 60, and then it trades sideways for the better part of 8 years. I mean, it did nothing other than just go sideways for 8 years. And then we recently broke out in a year ago. So 1 year ago, we were at $80. Now we're at $165. Guess who made no money on that run up? Me. Didn't make a dime. Didn't make a dime. I've been missing it because I really don't get the story. Maybe I should just buy some as some market research and go, you know what? These are really cool pants. I'll wear more. But yeah, technically it is bullish. I can't argue with that. The trend is bullish. I make fun of anyone anytime they short Lulu because the trend is so bullish. So all I can say is this gap should fill at some point a little bit. And if it does, I'd probably buy it if you're playing Lulu and just stay bullish, because whatever the story is, it's working.
I agree with both you guys. Just great analysis there. We traded Lulu, or I traded Lulu a couple years ago during kind of this rip your face off rally, and then it really it found gravity. It is, as you know, we're kind of joking about it, but to be honest with you, it is a little bit of a niche stock. I mean, I got T-shirts still that are older than most, you know, people in the gym that I work out with. So I ain't busting out my wallet anytime soon to go see or wear some clothes that people can see what I ate for lunch. But if you look at this, that's just a massive gap up on earnings.
Huge.
So we like to say, you know, just kind of poor man's technical analysis. If this thing fills half the gap and stays up, it's bullish. If it goes down towards half the gap and keeps going, obviously this was a, I don't know, short squeeze or just, you know, a massive profit taking. But if it gaps up and doesn't even make a head fake down towards this gap, that's bullish. I mean, this is, as these guys just said, this is a very, very bullish chart here. Like I said, it's a little niche-ish, but it's interesting to see Lulu's performance here, because a couple of weeks ago, Nike came out and did this. I'm not talking about the Michael Avenatti creepy porn lawyer news, but the no kidding Nike's earnings, right? Hey, global slowdown. And it's interesting because Lulu moved along with this as well. But, you know, obviously a little bit divorced now, so to speak. So it was really, really interesting to see because they're both global apparel companies, right? Nike's seen a little bit more of a, you know, a badge, and so is Lulu. So very interesting that these two just kind of were flying formation for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then broke away from each other. So long term, you know, like I jokingly say, I live down here in Boca Raton, which is God's waiting room. And that's all the ladies. And, you know, as we were just laughing about, some of the men wear down here. But I just don't see, you know, people ain't running around, you know, the spring breakers down here in Fort Lauderdale and not on the beach wearing Lulu. So I like it, but just know that it is a niche stock, and niche stocks can have a little, you know, a little bit of danger. So, all right, let's head over to what's next on our list here. Yeah, Cisco. Okay, so let's go the top of the order. What are you looking at, Brian, with Cisco?
Cisco. They will not be quiet about this name on financial news. They keep pumping Cisco, keep pumping it. It's been all over CNBC multiple times. This is pretty extended relative to the rest of the broader market.
Agreed.
And whenever I see a chart like this, and sometimes you just have to look at the price action by itself and not throw down resistance, not throw down support, not even throw down moving averages. It just looks extended. And so that, since I tend to be a little bit more bearish, that gets my ears perked up as this goes on the list to potentially short. And so if I'm looking at potentially shorting it, then other people are as well. I think that we're a little too extended and it's a chase here. I would add, to get long or short this, really, what I want to see happen is I want to see more of this. I want to see another shelf develop here or another pullback, and then we can just kind of cascade it down. But these moving averages really tell the story on this move. It's really extended. Look at how far apart everything is. Now it is in the proper order, but the spaces between your 8 period, your 50, your 200, and your 300 are just wide. It feels extended. It needs to come back down to earth a little bit, but we don't know when that's going to happen.
Really, you know, has had that massive run there. And Jeremy, we got earnings coming up on May 15th. What do you think happens going in earnings here, or at least short term?
Brian, by the way, totally agree on Cisco. They have been pumping it, and I'll throw my chart on. Screen share, click that. There we go. And with Cisco, what's interesting is I do like to look at really big pictures at some point in time, ever so often. And this one's going to be I say quiet. I mean, it will be a quiet tech giant to some degree that will make it back to its all-time highs. Don't know when that's going to occur. It's definitely not going to happen before earnings. But we're looking at this where a lot of people are surprised to hear that companies like TD Ameritrade have gotten back to their tech bubble highs. I think it was AMTD. So we're talking, wherever that bubble came in, 62.79 or so, we got right back up to 63. I mean, we were hitting it to the penny, and we had that, you know, in April of 2018. We've had a little bit of a pullback since then, but we got back up there. And that's really interesting to note. So will Cisco do the same thing? Looking at this trend, I have to say yes. And I do agree with Bryan. I think it is extended. I wouldn't personally buy calls or shares or anything that's bullish at this exact moment in time.
No.
But when it pulls back and does like one of those quick flash crash, whatever's going to happen on Cisco, when it fills this gap, gets down into like $52 where everyone's stops are at, then I'd buy it. But I think Bryan will probably make money on the way down. And then once it actually starts basing, I'll start looking to buy it on the way up.
I like it. Great analysis, guys. I just, this, first of all, our rip your face off rally yesterday on allegedly good Chinese PMI, here we are on, what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's that? Septuple, whatever. The 7th time we're trying to go through 2850. It really does feel like the market, we're starting to enter a little bit of a holding pattern. What do we have on the radar? Potential trade deal announcement. Okay. It's like we've been sitting in the back of the car for 3 hours waiting to get to Disney World. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And then, obviously the other thing is Q1 earnings starting to come on the radar here. The issue with me with Cisco, like I'm not going to regurge what these guys just said. They nailed it. Is any stock that runs up massively. First of all, not most companies are supposed to enter into a quiet period, so to speak, in front of earnings. So yeah, so it's not like Cisco is going to come out and announce everything great. So as you can see, volume is starting to maybe dry up a little bit. So with Cisco, great stock, ain't going out of business anytime soon. Obviously, like I said, I usually don't fish in this space, although it is a little. What do they actually? Yeah, they put this in the tech communications equipment. So obviously, it ain't a chip stock. Sometimes I have to come over to the screen and see exactly what they. Some of these massive companies, they put them into which sector. So I like the stock. I just don't like it with this type of rally into earnings. I'd sit on my hands a little bit. Maybe you miss a couple points to the upside if they have blowout earnings. But even if another reason I don't trade earnings, folks, is how many of you have traded earnings and been right and then been wrong, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Cisco announces earnings, they crush it. Stock's down 20% after hours. Nobody cares about earnings, folks. No broker I trade with ever in my life lets you trade off the left side of a chart. So earnings are leftward facing; they're backwards. So stocks move on earnings calls based on what the dude or the lady saying, "Hey, here's what's coming up." So God forbid you miss out a couple points of Cisco, but they could report blowout Q1 earnings and the stock still go down. If it does, get into it. If they report blowout earnings and it keeps going up, yeah, well then you missed a couple points, but you can jump on the train there. But I wouldn't. This thing's just a little too far over at ski tips for me.
Got it.
All right. Oh man. Well, I stole a little thunder from this one, but let's go to Bryan. What do you think about the SPY or just the S&P 500, not just SPY, SPX, but the overall S&P 500?
Yeah, you kind of led into that a little bit. So this is. I think it's more than 7 going through this level. It certainly feels like it, doesn't it?
It does. What is it, like 8? I don't even know. I used to study Latin when I was beat up as an Irish Catholic kid. I forget my Latin for what 8 is. So,
octo.
Yeah, octo. It's the octotop.
Yeah.
So we are running into the price action today. That gap up yesterday that gap up was on a strong Chinese PMI. We had a miss on PMI here, but we had a beat on ISM. And ISM is a little bit stronger of a number. So this gap on the S&P 500 and the indexes in general, because I think pretty much everybody traveled with it, has me concerned for the broader market. I really want to see this gap fill. Yesterday, in fact, I went looking for any gap of this size that didn't fill in recent memory, and I really could not find it anywhere. And so the question is, when is this gap going to fill?
Yep.
That is the big question here. And I want to see that a healthy market would give us a gap fill here. I want to see that before, but what really surprised, this actually took me by surprise, was us printing a doji dead on, or a spinning top, whatever you want to call it, dead, nearly dead on with the October, nearly dead on with January's of 2018's high. And so here, this is really, look at this head and shoulders that we're trying to print. We might, this could be a head and shoulders, or we have to wait. We just have to wait. I want to see this gap fill. I'd love to see us sell and fill this and then bounce and go.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, we've been joking about it, but I've been doing this for 20. Well, I don't want to say how long. A quarter of a century. I'll leave it at that. I've never seen a market hit 8 tops and not be able to bust through, break on through to the other side. What's your take?
It's going to be very interesting to see how high we go before we fill this gap, because it will happen. I agree with Bryan. It's almost a mathematical certainty at these levels. I just think that it's so obvious that it's going to fill that the market has to run up a little bit higher, just because we don't think that people are buying here, but they are. They are. Trust me. This is the weekly chart. So what was very important about yesterday's gap is it occurred on the first day of the month. So what that means is we have a monthly gap, we have a weekly gap, we have a daily gap, we have a gap on all 3 time frames, and that's about as important as you can get. So this is a monstrously strong move. So I do actually think we probably do go up into the 287, 288-ish area a little bit farther. All the newbies are going to hop on in, and that's when we'll get a little bit of a pullback. That's just, again, a pure speculation. I totally am fine to go bullish a little bit higher, but yes, when it does pull back, that'll be a great buying opportunity, as Bryan says. But my anticipation is I actually do think we make new all-time highs this year. I'm not afraid to say that. I think we will get there, because what happened in 2018 and 2019, we V-bottomed. This was a V bottom off the 200 simple. This is a V bottom pattern. No one expected that, including myself. As bullish as I am, I didn't think we would V bottom. Most people were like, yeah, we'll probably do something like this. We're kind of double bottom off of it. But a V bottom, I did not see that one coming. So yeah, we're gonna keep crushing, man.
Yeah. You know what's interesting, guys, is at a certain point it gets to be a little FOMO, fear of missing out. But the number one buyer of the S&P 500 year to date has been the S&P 500. The number one buyer of this market for the past year and a half to 2 years has been S&P 500 companies with share buybacks. Don't get me wrong. I love I'm Gordon Gekko in those moments, man. First of all, most CEOs and CFOs get paid a bonus based on what? Share price performance. So if you want to goose your share price a little bit, go out and buy. Yeah, but plus, Uncle Fed back here was threatening to raise interest rates, and we all had a complete temper tantrum. So with interest rates staying low, what happens? Money's still cheap. We can go out and buy or get a loan to buy back some of our shares. I mean, this is just so this, I kind of call it a MacGyver rally. It's being held up by paperclip string and a straw here. So if we're looking to the top right of this chart up here, what's the market really, in the absence of, like you guys said, in the absence of something horrific, this market kind of melts up. But I honestly think, and who is it? Morgan Stanley came out with a note today. Hey, about a 70% chance of a downturn as early as next month. I think Jeremy or one of you guys said, we got a lot of data coming out this week. China PMI is great. How about U.S. PMIs? We got our non-farm payroll number on Monday. We have to ask ourselves this question with the non-farm payroll on Friday. Are we still in bizarro market? Meaning, let's say it's just an abysmal jobs report. Knowing this market, the market rallies. Why? Because the market's going to go, well, Jerome Powell doesn't need to, hell, we might get an interest rate cut this year. Yeah. So this market really is going high, a little higher. You're right, man. Nobody expected this V bottom, but nobody expected Jerome Powell to go from October 3rd, hey, man, I'm going full afterburner on raising interest rates to it literally turning into a little dove sitting in a nest cooing. Which is disturbing. Yeah. So me, I'm uber bear. I mean, I look at all this stuff and go, well, first of all, you have to trade the market you have, not the one you want. Not that I want a down market, but I have to remind myself a lot of the time that the stock market and the economy are two completely different things.
Correct.
I mean, we have a lot of macroeconomic data that have come out recently. The conference, what was it? The Conference Board's consumer confidence numbers imploded the other day. February retail sales were weak that came out yesterday. So we're seeing these brown shoots and also these green shoots. So I'd be a little iffy to get long the S&P 500 year. The market can remain irrational longer than I can stay solvent. And you don't want to step in front of a freight train. But if anything, cash is a position. So if this thing's sitting here at a precipice, maybe sit on your hands with the S&P 500. We really need to see this thing bust through this 8 top, whatever it's called, with some airspeed and conviction. I think, real quick, we get a short-term pop on Trump saying, you know what, deal done. The dude's coming to June, to Mar-a-Lago. I think we get a short pop and then we sell on the news. I just think, a lot of. Yeah. I think a lot of this trade deal is priced into this market. So very long answer to the short question. I'm going to sit on my hands a little bit with the S&P 500 because cash is a position. So, all right, fellas. This is going to be good. What about Boeing, man?
Woo. All right, so we're gonna make this really easy here. Anything longer term or a swing is a no-go here. Either puts or calls are no-goes. Boeing is being investigated by the FBI, but even worse, they're being investigated by the FAA. This is pure headline risk right now. Pure headline risk. And so there's 10,000 symbols accessible in Thinkorswim, 10,000 different choices we can make. And that's always in the back of my mind. I think there's better opportunities out there than Boeing right now. It's getting decent price action in terms of responsiveness to the, I think its beta has actually gone up a little bit. It could be a day trade name, but certainly not a swing trade name. Not until we find out what's going on with these investigations. Pure headline risk right here. I'm just leaving this one alone.
Yeah, it's interesting because, before the investigations were even complete, the FBI is announcing a criminal investigation, Jeremy. It's not like the FBI wakes up one day over a cup of coffee and goes, we're bored. Let's go investigate Boeing. So, has the bad news already been into this thing, or is there more pain ahead?
It's a great question. And I will definitely say you gentlemen, especially you, Matt, will know more about Boeing and its specifics than I will. But regarding just pure technicals on this one, I actually did play it on I agree with Bryan. If you're playing this one, there's much better things you could play, number one. Number two, how much upside's actually left before you get some kind of crazy 5-6% sell off or just in one day? I don't know that answer. And you are going to have to deal with one of these news releases or something that's going to come out that's going to scare people, and Boeing will have a massive drop on one specific day, maybe earnings, maybe after earnings, I don't know. But there's better trades out there. Now, if you get offered a free lifetime supply of burritos and you're going to take a trade on Boeing, okay, all right, I get that. Here's what I would do: yes, this gap most likely will fill, as the gap on SPY will fill. And short term, you do have some good volume. I actually love this little trap right here. This candle that came in on March 22nd was the lowest that Boeing did. It closed below the low of this massive bullish candle. So this huge bullish candle, that was the gap down. So this close that came in on the 22nd, very bearish. Everyone's like, okay, cool, Boeing's going to go to zero. And then the very next day, boom, you get a massive bullish, and people are like, oh, no, we're just kidding. So all of these guys are going to get trapped in here. So I do think we actually probably will have a little bit of a snapback, trade higher, fill the gap, and then probably some news come out. We probably actually do come back all the way to retest 355 and some change, and then we bounce again. So we'll probably start consolidating in here. It's going to have a little bit of turbulence, and it'll be kind of fun to trade short term.
I like it. I went and grabbed. Here's my Boeing right here. So I grabbed my little model. This is spent 15 years flying this thing. So there's my experience with Boeing.
Exactly.
Although when I started flying the F-18 Hornet, it was actually McDonnell Douglas. So Boeing actually was bought by Mickey D. Back when men were men and sheep were nervous. So I think so. Here's the deal. Boeing. Let me. As we were just shooting the breeze here.
Sure.
Any stock that has FBI investigation or FAA investigation or Department of Transportation investigation, it's tough. There is not going to be flattering headlines about this. The Boeing looks, and it ain't too often. I mean, you guys can put this on your calendar, mark the date and time. I agreed with Elizabeth Warren, but she had a tweet today or the other day that said, because they made this disconnection of the autopilot system and this, like, hey, if the autopilot starts going crazy, do this. They made that like optional, but as part of the emergency procedure checklist, it was mandatory to deselect this system. So I got to be honest with you guys. I hate dancing on the graves of other pilots, but that's how we learn. That's how we build emergency procedures. I mean, when the F-18 left the flight, the factory, I think the emergency procedure section was about 2 pages. Now it's about 102. Why? Dudes and ladies died and made mistakes. The guys didn't fly the airplanes, period. Autopilot starts acting weird. What do? You don't stare at all the shit in the cockpit and start drooling looking at the instruments. You disconnect the autopilot, step one, and fly the airplane. Short term, got a lot of issues. Long term, it ain't going out of business. Here's the one creepy thing is, and China already started moving in this direction. They have a where's my note? $2.6 billion order with Boeing. It's just sitting there. And the other day, who canceled? Malaysia. Somebody canceled, or Indonesia. Malaysia or Indonesia canceled their whatever billion contract. China, if these negotiations get a little bad, if they cancel that, if China just wakes up one day and cancels, so you have headline risk, just like you said. We got headline risk in this name. I don't think they're going out of business anytime soon, but be careful. Be careful short term, as we talked about. And any stock you're trading in that's got an FBI investigation, I believe, and as an aviator, we like to speculate over coffee in the Red Room with our boots up on the table. When the FBI investigates, I think Boeing, taking a dude to a strip club or a briefcase full of cash to somebody over here to get something certified, most likely happen. Until that headline comes out and that lady or dudes are arrested, you're going to wake up one day and the stock's going to be down 5%. The FBI ain't going to come out with that investigation in Boeing, we were high. It's not going to happen, folks. So be very, very careful short term, because you're going to wake up and there could be China cancels a deal, FBI arrested dudes in Seattle or something like that. So just like these other gents covered, Bryan and Jerremy both nailed it. Be very, very careful with Boeing here. All right. Canadian Goose, man. Goose. Speaking of flying, Goose is dead. How's the stock though, Bryan?
So this is actually a really interesting chart. Like we analyze these moves to the upside and the downside, and we look for setups, right? We look for entry points. This is what we look for. We've got so much going on in this area at this point in time. We have a midterm on the daily, a downtrend here that's developed, but we have obvious support from your longer term moving averages, and we have consolidation of our moving averages. So this thing is setting up to do something. So we're going to watch this. I'm actually going to put this on my list to watch. I've got a couple other names that I'm watching and kind of stalking, because setups like this are actually really the time to take action. So we're coming into this corner here, and I want to see what happens when we move up to this trend line, and then what happens when we challenge this longer term moving average. This is going on my list of names to watch, because I think it's setting up for a move, but we don't have quite enough information right now to say which way it's going to be. Shorter term, I think it's to the upside, but we still have this trend line to work with. Now with options, remember everybody, when you're doing directional option trades like that, what matters is the margin. How much room is there from this point forward for the stock to move X number of dollars to make buying this option a good idea? So to the upside, we're going to run into issues at about $2, not even $2 more. And so that's not quite enough room. So this is one to stalk and wait and see what happens into this corner. I'm not so sure that if a retest of this 350 is going to hold, but we're still trapped in the middle here. This is a great setup. I love it. It's going on my list of names to watch for unusual options to kind of help guide me through it.
Perfect. Jerremy, what's your take, man?
Beautiful. Yeah, what's interesting about this one, and here's this is the chart on my end. I do agree with Bryan, and to the extent of this is a nice, very nice chart. So you have this beautiful, just, you know, gorgeous little trend, had its IPO thing, it kind of ran. And this is another niche, more or less, retailer that has a very specific focus. I mean, they make jackets, to my knowledge, but they're good. They're really good jackets, and they do keep a lot of people warm. So if we're looking at this one, I think a great buy spot would be right under this candle. So this is the December 24th candle. The low of that was 40.19. So if we do trade into that longer term trend line that Bryan was talking about, so right around 38, 39, if we get there, this is a big if, I would love to buy that, because you're going to have a lot of people saying, oh, this is a head and shoulders pattern, it's going to go to zero, which again, theoretically is possible, but we're looking at that as a support. That would be a great place to trap people. Anyone who went long, this is one of the stocks that has not been performing that amazingly well since the whole market's been just going, you know, bananas. So December 24th, until, you know, February, we did okay, but we've been down since February, over a month and a half. So if we keep that trend alive and make it a little bit lower, I think it's a good long-term buy at that level.
Looks like it was a, you know, kind of a buy going into Christmas, Kwanzaa, Festivus, and then kind of gave that back. I'm not a Canadian goose guy. Don't trade the stock. Just I'd be spitballing it, looking at the chart. But yeah, I agree. I probably sit on my hands a little bit. I want to let's get into the next one, because I'm a big Visa guy. Love Visa. It's everywhere you want to be.
It is. MasterCard.
Yeah, it's good looking stock. Bryan, what do you think about MasterCard?
This is not my area. I have not been real successful in payment processor space. I'm like, Visa has been fantastic. I feel like I'm just the way that these move. This is a lower ATR for its underlying. It's a stabler name. We're not going to get the big exciting moves that give us those 3-day swing trades that I prefer to look for. And so when I see an underlying price at this level at 239 with an ATR, this is a 5-day ATR here of 3.2. For my style of option trading and the way that I manage my risk, it's an immediate turnoff, and it's a pass.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, the you know, as far as options, what we did, I'm not a MasterCard guy, but to be honest with you, they both look alike, MasterCard and Visa. You know, for me, we you know, we'll hop in our time machine and fly out to Jan 21 and look at some leaps. But I could talk about that in a second. Jeremy, what do you think about MasterCard?
So I am on the side, the fence regarding what to say on this one, because I have no MasterCard positions. I've fully missed out on this move. The trend looks ridiculous. It's almost comical. And I mean, let me zoom out to a monthly chart on this thing, because it is quite hilarious. I mean, what is it? Just never going to go down, apparently. So I mean, you look at this. So this is the biggest drop that we've had. Price-wise, as far as like just numbers on MasterCard, has happened back, you know, in this most recent move, and that was it. So we've gotten 3 or 4 actual pullbacks on this thing. It's unhealthy. I mean, it can't happen forever. So the question just is, when does MasterCard have a pullback? Does it make a purchase? Does it try to acquire Discover or American Express or maybe Square? Who is it going to buy? And when that happens, they'll start consolidating. So if I had shares of MasterCard, it is pretty much at this exact moment in time that I would be watching very closely. I would start getting into a collar. So a collar is a nice long-term covered call, a nice, decent protective put. And I would just sit back and just let it do its thing. If I got exercise on MasterCard at 250 or 255 or 260, I'd probably be pretty happy with it, because it's making new all-time highs. It feels like almost every day.
Well, yeah, I love it. Great analysis. The Visa to us has been the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, this thing, you can't keep it down. I remember, you know, here's October 3rd, Jerome Powell ending capitalism, and then here's Jerome Powell saving capitalism. You know, take out this part of Visa. I mean, the thing kind of is back up. It's continued the flight path. Well, you know, after the Fed clown car here, you take a look at a 2, 5, 10-year chart, the thing just, it goes up and to the right. I remember being in Visa. When was it? I was literally sitting on the beach or something like that, a Saturday or Sunday, and like Europe's Visa system went down or something like that. Like they couldn't. I'm like, oh my God, Monday's going to be a bloodbath. It was down like 50 cents on Monday. It didn't. It didn't even blink.
Wow.
I mean, that kind of like what we talked about with Boeing. You do kind of get some single stock risk. I remember sitting on the beach going, "Oh my God, I can't wait to the futures." I gotta, I was freaking, and then it didn't even. It wasn't even a blip. Definitely. So Visa and MasterCard to me kind of fly formation with each other. Wouldn't be an Amex guy. I mean, Costco even recognized that, that's kind of your father's credit card. I love Visa. I think they're going to get when the crypto space matures.
There we go.
Yeah, exactly. It's at the 51-minute point. I said crypto. I didn't say the B word though. Anybody, can you believe this thing? I mean, here we are. What did the B word get up as high as like 18 grand or 20 or so? I mean, so how many people got obliterated? Folks, listen to me. Until a product, here's my rule of thumb. When something new comes out, until they trade options on it, it's not grown up for me yet. I mean, the CME or no, whoever it was the other day stopped trading Bitcoin futures. They ditched it. We were just talking about before we got on the air about a lot of businesses won't even let you publicize Bitcoin. So folks, remember, there's going to be literally, if you believe in the crypto space, there's going to be thousands of cryptocurrencies. But I mentioned the Death Star earlier in this presentation. The only crypto you got to be worried about is Amazon. Amazon is going to start taking crypto payments. If you don't think Jeff Bezos has been up on a whiteboard with some other folks, smart folks in a room talking crypto, you're nuts. I mean, the dude takes payments to buy stuff. So back to the original symbol, Visa. Love Visa. Couldn't be more bullish on Visa. We've had Visa trades on that have just been printing money. It just goes up and to the right. So like Visa. All right, let's do one more, and then let's kind of get an overall like where we just think we're heading here. Wow, GE. I mean, in the old days, GE was the flagship. Now that you can't touch it with a 10-foot pole, Brian, what do you think about plumbing the depths of GE?
Not yet. More headline risk here, folks. I don't think they're done with the spinoffs. I think that they're going to be. There's rumors. The rumor mill is talking about maybe some power plant spinoff. This is for directional option trades for a cash-based account, right? 20-cent ATR. So for the sweet spot trades that I like, which are the quick swing trades, there's nothing here for me to begin with. Now, looking at it from an equity or a TA point of view, strong support at 6. I never thought I'd say this about GE. It makes me laugh. Strong support at 6 and change. But I don't think we're done spinning off. And so we're taking on headline risk if we buy shares here. Just nothing attractive about this chart.
Yeah, it's. I'll get to my own GE in a second here, but I mean, what a fall from grace, Jeremy. A once great high flying stock. This thing can't go out of business to plumbing the depths of $10.
Yep, and so this is one of those where we have to be very careful as analysts, like to say, oh, it can never go down. And yeah, this is the GE chart on a monthly time frame, and since 2000, it's more or less done only that. I agree with Brian. This is going to be, I've had a lot of people ask me, should I buy GE long-term? It's had a great support. It's a dividend payer. And I'm like, oh yeah, you want the dividends that GE is paying now. They are not good. I think they've cut them even again recently. So the thing is, when does this cripple and die that's the only question. So if you buy it, it's like you're buying Sears or JCPenney or Office Depot, or I think Staples bought Office Depot. But yeah, if you're buying Office Depot or Western Union or DirecTV, all of those things are going to be done within weeks or months or years. But GE, I think, is one of those. Now, very short term, you can trade anything, and short term, this is a bullish chart, believe it or not. So you're fully above all the 10, 20, and 50 moving averages. We're hitting the 200 pretty much almost as we speak. It's at 1043. So if we close above the 200, which will be the first time in a long time, I actually do think GE can get a little bit of love. So yes, very short term. Like if you're swing trading or day trading because you're bored and you want to play GE because there's nothing else you could possibly day trade other than GE. If you want to make a little bit of money on the upside, I think short term is bullish, but long term, I'm not a buyer or a fan of GE.
This will be a black eye to me. I looked into GE, about this time last year when I'm like, hey man, kind of like what you guys were covering, that the sum is worth more than the parts. I mean, you look at speaking of Boeing, the two motors in the F-18 Hornet are General Electric. So aircraft engines, medical imaging, railroad engines. I mean, you name GE Capital. The thing is a massive behemoth. So I'm like, back around here, they said, hey, maybe we'll break this thing up. I mean, if you break it up into its aircraft engines, medical, or locomotive and stuff like that, the sum of the parts is bigger than the cash value of this company. So I got into it, and then right around here, you're outgunned when the analysts that like only cover GE didn't know that GE still owned GE Capital. I thought, what was it, a year and a half to 2 years ago, they spun off GE Capital, and then I think it was this or that earnings where they came out and said, hey, it's still kind of a loss leader. And I remember reading like a bunch of stunned analysts going, we thought you got rid of that. So and then on the way down here, we find out that the previous CEO, the president of the United States, folks, doesn't fly around with 2 Air Force Ones, but the CEO of who was the last CEO of GE? The guy flew around with 2 of his Challenger or G6 aircraft in case the one broke. He flew around the world he had an empty one of those.
Wow.
So once the lights in the kitchen got turned on in GE, we knew it was going to be a rat fest. And that's what it turned out to be. So the current skipper kind of doing a decent job of trying to break up the parts like we talked about. This ain't going to happen overnight. Like I said, I was stunned. And if I'm stunned, these analysts that were covering the thing on a 24-hour basis were super stunned. So I got a black eye here. I bailed out of this thing. And, if you're I hate using this term, if you're a lottery ticket guy, maybe you go out to Jan 21 and buy some 0.8 Delta calls and put them in a filing cabinet. But I think there's better alpha. There's better opportunities out there. Instead of tying up capital in GE, I'd divert that somewhere else. Agreed. All right, fellas, I'll tell you what, we got about 2 minutes left. Brian, do me a favor, or actually do everybody else a favor. Let us know how we get a hold of you at Alpha Shark, or what you do, or can we take a test drive into that live trading that you do? Let us know.
If you want to learn about Alpha Shark, go to alphashark.com /options trading blog. And I'll provide that link is provided in our chat if you can share that out. And you can learn about Alpha Shark. We're pretty proud of this page. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of pages of our trades, our trade ideas, our personalities, our webinars, our products. Everything about Alpha Shark starts here on that blog page. I think last time I looked, there was 400 pages of material to go through there.
Very nice, man. That's some good content. Love what you guys do at Alpha Shark. Jerremy, good working with you again, my friend. And how do we track you down at Real Life Trading?
Yes, likewise. Again, great name, Alpha Shark. That's a solid name for a company. My name, reallifetrading.com is my website. My email address is Jerremy with 2 R's, JERREMY at reallifetrading.com. You're welcome to reach out to me anytime, folks, with any questions. Just like Brian and Matthew, I'm just here to help. Love trading, love teaching, and love educating. So if I can be in front of people and help them learn about the markets, I'm all for it.
And Matt, you're muted. Okay. I think
no worries.
No, sorry about that. Damn mute button. I appreciate that, David. Head to go.topgunoptions.com /goflight. $38. You can take a 7-day test flight in what we do. I'm about to work out and then go down to Las Olas and get a glass of tequila to sip with my steak. And the glass of tequila is $56 at the Lobster Bar across the street. So for less than a price of one of my drinks tonight, you can get airborne in a 7-day test flight into all of our live trade briefs Monday through Thursday. Okay, go.topgunoptions.com /goflight. With that, David, 1700 Eastern, we put the bomb through the window on time, on target. So over to you, my friend, and thanks for having me.
All right, thanks, guys. Great show. lots of good information. Just a quick reminder for everyone, be sure to subscribe to Timing Research on YouTube and your favorite podcast network. You can also go to TimingResearch.com to get access to this or any of the past shows. And both shows will be off next week for the Well 365 presentations. I always take the week off so that everyone can go check out those presentations instead. Let's see, Matt, you're doing a presentation for them Wednesday night, right?
I think I am, correct. Okay. 8 o'clock, you bet.
And Bryan and Jerremy, I don't know if you guys are on the lineup for that.
I won't be on this one, but for those of you, I'll be in Greece. But for everyone else,
Nice.
have an amazing time. Yep.
Well, I know Andrew Keene from Alpha Shark is also going to be doing one of the presentations on this one as well. But and then also every day of the presentation, there's at least one or more people who have been on the Timing Research shows giving presentations. So for everyone listening, if you like my guests for these shows, be sure to check out Well 365. Lots of good presentations next week. So
yep. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
And yeah, so just a quick thank you again for my guest for this week, Bryan Klindworth of AlphaShark.com. First-time guest. Thanks for being with us. Jerremy Newsome of RealLifeTrading.com. And Matt Buckley of TopGunOptions.com. Thanks, guys.